Hi everyone, I'm Alex, and I just wanted to kind of take you through the initial kind of guided tour and overview of Kitaru, and kind of just show you a little bit how it works. Can take you through the agent guided tour of the product and give you a little bit of an idea of what Kitaru does. So we have our docs page, which is docs.znml.io, and we have a kind of quick start page which gives a pretty nice overview of what it is exactly that Kitaru is doing. So we have kind of agent-driven versions of how you can use the product, and you can also use it manually with our CLI and MCP, our CLI tools and the Python and TypeScript SDKs. But what Kitaru offers is a way to take your kind of production traces and figure out how to build evals out of them in order to make your product, your agent product, better. And so what we do is you import your traces into Kitaru. We have special custom, inbuilt importers for many of the trace providers that you're probably familiar with, like Langfuse, Langsmith, Braintrust, and Logfire. We also have a skill that will build an importer custom, for you if we don't support it out of the box. And then we have some skills that can help you take you through the big product loop. So the idea is that we would start with just trying to understand the traces that you imported. We have some deterministic ways of just running against the traces that you import. For example, we can check how long do they take? Are some of them real massive outliers versus the others? Are certain tool calls getting called in a loop? That kind of thing, as well as more custom ones around specific output contracts that you specify, or whether it exceeds a particular max cost that you specify. So we can run those, and the agent will run those to kind of understand the batch of traces that come in. And then at some point, then you just want to kind of go and look through your traces and start to put together some kind of hypothesis around what's going on. So we have a way to annotate your traces within Kitaru, and that will create an investigation. And then you pass those annotations basically back to the agent, or they get saved within the product, and you can create a custom evaluator. An evaluator is basically a way of testing your particular hypothesis that maybe you discovered while annotating your traces. And then you can run, which is kind of what the core value of what Kitaru brings. You can replay against the original trace, and then you can change something in your agent. Maybe you update your system prompt or change the model or whatever, and then you replay it, and then you see whether the behavior changed in the way that you want. And you can create, obviously, multiple replays at the same time. And then you have some kind of way of inspecting the evidence, seeing whether the changes that you made did what you want. So I'll be kind of walking you through this. We do have some skills. We have a skills repository. The one I'll be kind of guiding you through today is the guided tour, and that kind of offers an educational kind of tutorial, which uses our template repository. So this template is basically kind of a simple Pydantic AI agent that handles returns. It's kind of a customer chatbot. And we have some traces for you, which we exported from Langfuse. So even if you don't have a tracing account or whatever, you can just use these and import these. So when you create a new workspace within Kitaru, it will come with these instructions, and it will encourage you to install the relevant Python packages. You should log in and connect to this particular server and workspace, and then you should install the skills. Obviously, you can just install them directly from GitHub, but this npx skills package can be quite handy. And then we encourage you to connect to the Kitaru MCP server. So this is a .mcp.json file, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with. You can just give it to your agent and tell it to install it. Just I will note that you will need to restart your you will need to restart your coding agent once you have installed it. That's just something about how these MCP servers work. And yeah, and then there will be some template here. If you already had your own code, you could say, you know, I have so-and-so, I'm using LangGraph, and I have traces already in Logfire, let's say, and then you could copy this prompt into your coding agent, but since we just want to run the template, we can just use this, and in fact it works pretty well, even just by triggering the skill. And yeah, I'm going to use DeepSeek v4 Flash because it's new and because it's also pretty fast. I will mostly run this in real time and just kind of tell you a little bit what's going on as I see it. So obviously it's loading the different bits of the skill here. And reading through them. I think then the first thing that it's going to do is going to go and check the environment and just make sure, you know, do we have the relevant packages installed? It says it already found that Kitaru template project, so it doesn't need to clone. It doesn't need to clone it fresh. So yeah, it doesn't need to clone it fresh. And yeah, it kind of just explains a little bit what's going on. It talks about the tour and what you're going to go on. It's going to tell you a little bit about the example, and it's going to tell you what exactly your role in this. So it'll ask, depending on what your settings are, and in your coding agent, it may be more or less polite. But here it's asking whether it can just sync the relevant packages. So we're just going to let it go ahead and do this. And yeah, I would say a lot of the behavior is kind of fairly hard-coded in the skill, so feel free to use this on a low reasoning setting, because I know some of the weighty ChatGPT and Anthropic models can take a long time reasoning about things, but this one should be fairly good to go on Rails. And so here now it's reading the MCP server. And it's checking, yeah, what's there. I guess it didn't find anything there because we haven't actually run anything within Kitaru yet. And yeah, it's kind of confirmed what's available to us. So what it's going to do first is going to register the agent. So this is the Pydantic AI agent that I was telling you about earlier. Then it's going to start a worker, and workers are kind of Kitaru's way of just like running the things that we need it to, whether it's replays or evaluators that I was talking about. So that will just run in the background. And then it's going to import the 10 run. So that was that JSON-L file that I showed you in the repository a little bit earlier. So it's actually using our CLI tool to register these things. It's going to be a little bit up to the agent whether it decides to use the MCP server or the CLI. I guess DeepSeek v4 Flash prefers using the CLI, and now it's importing the session. It's those langfuse traces, that JSON-L file, and you can see it created them. And now it's doing its own thing, inspecting all of this, and it's using the MCP server back here. But we can see there is an agent that's being created here. And if we click in here, we'll see that there are 10 sessions actually. And so these are, yeah, the original traces. And if we click into one, I can just show you a little bit the UI. So you can see it's like your traditional trace. You can see it in a timeline view as well. You can see it in thread view, and you can see, you know, the original input and the output, and as well as, you know, reasoning, all of the things you would expect from your coding agent. And I'm just switching back and forth a little bit to see, because it's going to be doing some things in the background. Basically what it's doing right now is it's starting to think about, so we have these 10 traces, like how are we going to like separate them out a bit in order to like focus on one thing? Because if you try, yeah, it's best when you're working with an agent and you want to improve it to pick like a problem that you've really observed going on and then work to try and fix that. So it's doing some investigation on its own with Bash, with our CLI tools. I guess it's running custom Bash, bash scripts. And so if I go back here to the agents mode, you can see, if I click here, you can see we have this worker which is running. So that's the thing which is running things. It ran one import job. That was what imported the 10 traces. Evaluators, we have these custom ones which I mentioned earlier. So these ones come built in, but then we will build our own. So let's go back to the agent and see what it's up to. So I think now it's it will have come up with its own idea of like what we might want to annotate. Okay, so it's almost getting done, and it's going to give us kind of a little verdict. And I would say normally what you want to do when you're taking a look at your agent, deciding what you want to fix about it. Let's say you have these 10 traces. Probably you want to go and take a look at all of them and annotate things as you find them, or take a look at a big batch. And we have kind of annotation built in. Just whenever you're looking at a session, you can add annotations this way, or you can add like little notes on the whole session as a whole. But what it's done here is kind of a guided, it's trying to guide you through, because obviously you probably don't know what the underlying agent is, and so on. So it's going to give a few examples. So remember, this is a customer support agent, and there are three sessions that it's identified as being potentially problematic. So here, Sam is asking for a $280 refund, yet we have a policy that requires human approval above $200. The agent reasons that it can't be processed without human approval, but then it issues the $280 refund anyway. So this is kind of like, this is escalated beyond what it should have, and this is kind of unreasonable, and we would expect this not to happen. And then here we can see that Maya had a tote bag that was delivered 20 days ago, but the accessories policy allows returns only within 14 days. But yet the agent still offers her a refund, and makes up that it was done per policy. And then here, I guess this third example is kind of something that went well or went as expected. So Dana had some running shoes, and they were defective. The agent refunded her $98 because it was within the 30-day window and it was under the $150 approval threshold. So what it's going to do now, I'm going to say yes, is basically create some annotations for us to look through, just to give you a sense of like what the annotation flow looks like. So we'll let it do that, and it should give us a URL that we can then go ahead and read. And it's creating a custom script to create those annotations. And it looks like those are all created, and it's going to point us to a particular URL. And this URL will basically be our way of confirming or offering of annotations. So I can just click this URL. And so what you can see here is it's highlighted the get return policy, and it said exactly what I talked about. The luggage policy requires human approval above 200, but the agent issued and recorded and accepted $280 refund. So is this acceptable? Definitely not. We can say that it's problematic, and then we can click next. And here, this is the second example where it refunded her even though it was over the 14-day refund. You can say also also unacceptable, and we say that give it a verdict of problematic, just so it knows that something went wrong here. And then here in this third case, this was the kind of the one that went right, so we can say yes, that that seems reasonable, and we can say it's acceptable. And I would just say that we're allowing it to propose these annotations because I will just copy this and post it in. We're allowing it to create these annotations for us for the purposes of this guided tour, but normally you wouldn't want AI to be doing your data annotation for you because it's generally speaking not going to do as good a job as you, because you have the actual domain understanding of the problem. So now it's reading the annotations that were put together, and the next step is basically going to be turning these into some kind of evaluator. So it says it recorded the verdicts and the annotations that we passed through. Now it's going to check the deterministic evaluators that exist and see if any of them actually relate to the problem that we're trying to solve. So this was this kind of like not following the policies of the organization. And now it's searching a little bit how it can create these custom evaluators, and then register them so that then we can use them. And basically with custom evaluators, ideally you would want to do this in a deterministic way. So you would want evaluators that are cheap to run and are quick to run. So if there's a way of capturing it in some kind of deterministic script, then that's how we'd recommend doing it. But then, of course, for more complex evaluations, you can put an LLM in the loop. You can do other things around that. But we recommend that you go with the kind of fast-running deterministic evaluators, which is, I'm hoping and thinking, is going to be the one that it ends up creating. And if we click done here, we can go back out and look at the evaluators. This is where eventually it's going to get created. And if we wanted to create a new evaluator, you could just copy this prompt into your coding agent, and it would help you write one out. It would use the Kitaru investigation skill, which is kind of our flagship skill. So now it looks like it's created in evaluator, and now it is, I would imagine, going to register that evaluator. Actually, I see the evaluator here. It's a refund policy evaluator that's been added to the local code base. And now it is, I hope it's going to, to basically register that within Kitaru if it hasn't already. It's correcting its code. And it actually seems to have written tests for itself, which is interesting. All right, created that in a temporary folder just to make sure that it's actually going to work against the traces that we're running against. And I guess that worked now. So now it's run 10 different versions of that. Just for itself. So I'm just going to say yes, and we're going to read what it says. But basically, it talks about the behavior that we observed when we were doing those annotations, and it suggested a cohort of 3 different tickets, which are these different tickets that we annotated. And then it's registering the evaluator, which I guess should pretty soon. It's actually creating the cohort first. So cohorts is like a grouping of sessions. So it has 3 sessions here. We can click it and we can see which ones respected the kind of the refund policy that we mentioned. Now also, if I go back here, I imagine our evaluator is visible. So this is the script which is going to be run against those replays that we run. And so yeah, it just explains a little bit that we have this cohort that I just showed you, and then we have the evaluator version, which I just showed you. And that'll look good. And so now what it's going to do is it's going to test against those frozen examples. So it's going to create an experiment, basically. And experiments will live here. We don't have any experiments yet, but it's gonna run that. And so you're going to get a way to see whether some small change in the agent will allow us to fix those problems that were problematic. And ideally, we want it not to break things that were working. So I guess that's why we have that third example there, just to be able to show that just because we changed the system prompt, it shouldn't then change the things that were broken. And yeah, this example uses an OpenAI API key. It uses GPT-5 Nano, which is an extremely cheap model. So yeah, it shouldn't cost more than a few cents to run these, and probably most of you have an OpenAI API key lying around. And even running these agent skills, as you can see, they're pretty cheap to run. And let's see what's going on, whether the experiment is there yet. Seems not quite yet. So now I think it's making some small updates for the experiment, and now it's just checking with the Kitaru CLI to create an experiment in that way, which then will be the thing that we can use to evaluate. So it's just going to. I'll just kick that off while we can read what it said. So basically, we're testing whether a refund which gets issued, whether it meets or exceeds the policy's approval threshold. So remember, this was the thing that was going wrong, and it needs to be escalated to a human if it hits that approval threshold. And we have this cohort of 3 sessions that we're testing against, then we're going to make some changes to the system prompt in order to hopefully solve it. And let's see. Okay, now it's creating the experiment. If we go here, we can see that there is an experiment which I imagine has not been run yet. So now it's going to run it, and what you will see. Okay, and here we can see okay, so I just let it run a little bit longer, and I will just let it show you the results. Here basically we have like one added instruction here, which basically I'll show you the system prompt in a second, which says basically escalate instead of issuing a refund that exceeds the policy approval threshold. And so for the original 2 that were failing, we saw that it actually improved them. So both of them escalated to human review. So that improved. And then for the one that worked correctly, that was unchanged. So we can go and see this in the dashboard, and you can see that originally numbers 15 and 16, these were failing because they escalated beyond what they should have, and now they're a pass. And you can see that they all passed in the view, and you can inspect, and we can go and if you want to check the evaluator that was particularly that was run for this, we can go and click here, and in fact we can go and check out the specific changes. So if we click the compare button, you can see how the system prompt changed. So this system prompt is a little bit longer, and you can see the new, as in the replay, has this section of like, well, if the refund amount meets or exceeds the policy human approval threshold, escalate to a human instead of issuing the refund. And you can see more data about how these things will run, the particular cost differentials, and more about the trace, kind of comparing these two things. And then we can, of course, go and click in through to the full session. And if there was something we noticed, we could, of course, annotate this and begin this whole cycle again. Yeah, that's kind of the full overview. If you have your own traces, of course, you can use the Kitaru investigate skill. But this is kind of the full overview of the guided tour and how that all works. And yeah, this is just to give you an idea of how Kitaru, how we expect people to use Kitaru in general. But yeah, let us know if you how you get on with your own agent traces, and yeah, we look forward to chatting with you if you have any feedback for us.